On today's show, the big news on campus, student body elections.
The results are in. 2 candidates remain in the race for student body president.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think these last 3 weeks really pushed us, and so we're going to see how much more we can get pushed the next week.
It feels surreal. It feels like we've got a lot of work to do in the next week, and I'm thrilled to do it.
Also, imagine you're at 13,000 feet and falling at a speed of 120 miles per hour. See how students push their limits and learn valuable life skills they can use in the armed forces.
Stay right here for those stories and more.
Carolina Week starts now.
From the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, this is Carolina Week.
Well, the votes are in, but the elections aren't over. Good evening, I'm Brigida Mack.
And I'm Tim Nelson. Thanks for joining us for the February 13th edition of Carolina Week. Well, students made their choice, but in 2 races it was too close to call. Now they'll have to vote again for student body president and senior class officers.
Carolina Week has special team coverage of the student body elections. We'll show you how 2 important referendums fared. Plus, we'll have the results of the senior class officers in Carolina Athletic Association presidential race.
But we begin tonight with the student body president race. That race now has an extra lap to go.
And after 3 weeks of campaigning and more than 7,000 votes cast, we have a runoff election set for Tuesday, February 19th.
And juniors Jen Dom and Will McKinney have 1 more week on the campaign trail.
It was a fabulous day. Lots of friends, lots of supporters, lots of help. I couldn't be more excited.
I looked at this day as sort of like Super Tuesday in the primary scope of things. This separates the men and women from the boys and girls, and so here we are.
After a busy election day campaigning across campus, the 6 candidates for student body president gathered in Peabody Hall Tuesday night, anxiously awaiting the day's results.
You got this ball in your gut, and then it eventually sort of releases once you hear the numbers.
And for Will McKinney and Jen Dom, the top 2 vote getters, the numbers were good. In a very tight race, Dom received 2,129 votes, or a bit more than 30% of a record 7,074 votes cast, edging McKinney by just 138 votes to set up the runoff next Tuesday.
I was just overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed. I had no idea what was going to happen, not a clue.
But Dom and McKinney both have a clue what the next week will be like. Much more of the same.
I'm not going to take any days off, going to hit the ground running.
Talk to as many people as possible, and we just make sure that our message gets out. And if people like what they hear, they're going to find a reason to go to the voting polls next week.
And with the top 2 accounting for less than 60% of the vote Tuesday, there are lots of votes out there.
It's a numbers game now, and we think we know how to do our math.
So far, that math looks to be on Dom's side. Losing candidates Fred Hashigan and Bennett Mason say they'll endorse her. Brad Overcash came in 3rd with more than 1,700 votes, but he hasn't thrown his support to either remaining candidate yet. Again, that runoff election is Tuesday, February 19th.
Well, another election is still undecided. The field for senior class president and vice president was cut in half, with 2 teams remaining. UNC-Chapel Hill juniors Tinu Akintola and running mate David McIntosh will be on the ballot next week. But Paymon Rohanafard and Robert Albright were the big winners, pulling in nearly twice the number of votes as the runner-up. Rohanafard says he is pleased with the results.
I honestly had no clue what to expect. I know that it was just a high voter turnout in general, and for us to get 41% of the vote, I guess that's great, and I guess we'll just keep on trucking next week for the runoff.
The Carolina Athletic Association has a new president. In the Battle of the Chris's, Chris Willett defeated Chris Gore. Willett received more than 61% of the vote, while Gore received 29%. Write-in candidates got the other 10%. Willett says she's looking forward to the coming year.
Now is the best part because we get to implement all the platform ideas that I have, and I'm very excited about it. I get to gather a very hardworking, good crew of people for my cabinet, and it's just many exciting days ahead of us.
Willett says she wants to increase communication between the CAA and students and rally the campus around all Carolina sports.
Supporters of the 2 referendums on the ballot are celebrating because both referendums passed.
Carolina Week's Brandon Herring joins us now to tell us more about the issues involved. Brandon?
Students with children now have more funds available to help them pay for child care, and student voices will be represented on a petition urging the North Carolina General Assembly to reform campaign financing. Child care costs in the Chapel Hill area are among the highest in the state, and that makes being a parent and a Carolina student especially difficult. Several student organizations worked on a referendum to help solve the problem by raising student fees by 75 cents a semester. Graduate student and anthropology teacher Mark David says public voucher money in Orange County isn't available for many student parents.
This is an initiative that's basically going to address that specific problem by creating more voucher money that will go to the neediest students and graduate employees here on campus.
More than 2,800 people signed petitions to get the second referendum on the ballot. The referendum is a way for students to let legislators know students support campaign finance reform. Organizer Tara Perowitz says she thinks lawmakers will be influenced by the referendum.
I think it would get some attention simply because it would be students doing something. And a lot of time legislators or adults accuse students of not taking the initiative and being apathetic. And I think this is a good way to show that students do want to participate.
Nearly 90% of students supported the campaign finance reform referendum. The money generated from the child care referendum will help about half the students who need it. So supporters hope the university will match those funds.
Well, 90% is very strong support. Thanks, Brandon. In other news, Governor Mike Easley takes another bite out of the UNC system's budget. This past week, Easley announced a $51 million cut from the system's renovation fund and a $21 million cut from the operating budget. $5 million of that comes from UNC-Chapel Hill, bringing this year's total loss to $115 million. Officials haven't yet said what will be cut.
Tuition. It's a word we've been hearing a lot lately. Carolina Week's Aaron Dupois tells us about an idea that would have some students paying less, but others paying more.
When Carolina Junior Alona Kalin buys something in a store, she pays the same price as everyone else. But what if she paid less because she has less? That's the idea behind a new tuition proposal bouncing around the state legislature. North Carolina State Senate Majority Leader Tony Rand says tuition based on income could accomplish two things.
It will allow better support of faculty salaries and things of that nature, and it would also give those aid, I think, who are not financially able.
But students who are already on financial aid wouldn't get a break if the price tag on their tuition changed. Federal grants are based on how much a student's family can pay. If the government decides a family can pay $20, it makes no difference whether their tuition costs $50 or $100. They still pay $20. Student Body Vice President Rudy Kleistober says a sliding scale would help the students that financial aid won't.
Unless you fall into a category that's extremely poor or, very poor, you get a marginal amount of financial aid. And the students in the majority of our population are being left behind.
Financial aid director Shirley Ort says there's already a system in place to keep college affordable. In Chapel Hill, I'm Aaron Dupois, Carolina Week.
Ort adds that the difference between a sliding scale and our current financial aid program would be a wash at best.
Future UNC students may be spending less time in the classroom. The UNC Board of Governors has relaxed academic calendar requirements. The new policy lets campuses count exam periods as instructional time, and that could trim the academic year by as much as 2 weeks. The policy change is optional, but many UNC-Chapel Hill administrators support the proposal, mainly because it would put UNC and Duke on similar schedules, making it easier to coordinate programs between the two universities. It's still unclear if and when UNC-Chapel Hill will implement the calendar changes. Carolina's Army ROTC cadets are taking their training to a higher level.
Find out why the sky's the limit when Carolina Week continues.
For the 1.3 million children living with AIDS, we can do more than just learn the facts about HIV. Through Caring for Kids 101, a campus outreach program, College students nationwide are helping to end this deadly disease. Half of all newly infected people are under the age of 24. Your assignment, get involved with Caring for Kids 101.
Every child deserves the chance to live a healthy life. Support the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation.
The steps of Wilson Library receive no sunshine on early winter mornings, so it's chilly there if you don't have that double-shot caramel espresso. Surrounded by forever green magnolias, the steps are a fine place to study, or at least pretend to, while you watch a border collie chase a frisbee in the quad. No one knows the real Carolina like a student. Carolina Week, the student news show.
UNC-Chapel Hill students are giving back to the community by helping children. On Tuesday, Sigma Chi gave the Duke's Children's Hospital a check for $40,000. The fraternity and 11 sororities raised the money last fall during Derby Days. While another children's hospital is getting ready to open its doors to patients. Carolina Week and the Dance Marathon Committee got an exclusive tour of the new North Carolina Children's Hospital. The first patients, newborns, will begin treatment at the hospital February 23rd. All patients will have their own rooms with pull-out beds, encouraging parents to stay the night. Construction problems delayed the hospital's opening for nearly a year and a half.
As the country faces war, Army ROTC cadets practice skills that will help them in battle. Carolina Week's Ashlyn Gorse takes us along for a natural high.
It's 0600 hours. The newspapers haven't been unwrapped, but these students are already up and beginning their morning exercises. They are the Army ROTC cadets. The rigorous schedule, hard training, and early morning teach these cadets many important lessons. But one lesson can't be taught on campus. Special Forces Captain Craig Marks says skydiving is one of the best ways to teach self-control and confidence.
I mean, I don't want to come off as saying we're looking for fearless people that'll jump out of airplanes, but we're looking for people that can control their fear.
And controlling your fear is one of the similarities between skydiving and parachuting. ROTC's Second Lieutenant Kevin McGowan says getting ready to jump is a dreadful yet exhilarating feeling.
Skydiving, it helps you with the initial shock of leaving the aircraft, and it doesn't matter how you're leaving it or what's going to happen afterwards. Is that it's the initial shock of looking, 1,000 feet below you or 14,000 feet below you.
Campus ROTC cadets gear up just like this, hop on these planes, and get ready to jump. Nervousness is at its highest at 14,000 feet. You must force yourself to take the plunge. Going 120 miles per hour with blood rushing through your head, you have to remain in control of your mind. The nerves, control, and bravery associated with skydiving are life-saving skills soldiers will use in combat situations.
The correlation with here is the getting the nerve to do it, getting in the airplane, and jumping out of the airplane.
And there's no way to learn that except by doing it. Back on the ground, I'm Ashlyn Gorse, Carolina Week.
ROTC cadets jump at Carolina Sky Sports in Lewisburg.
Well, 2 new mannequins have moved into UNC-Chapel Hill School of Nursing, but they're no dummies. The human patient simulators are nicknamed Stan the Man and Stan Jr. They'll be used to educate students at the nursing school. The simulators can imitate nearly 70 different health scenarios, from a heart attack to diabetic shock. And they react realistically to many medications. The Stans breathe, blink, and even have a pulse. They even talk with the help from instructors. Educators from across the state visited recently to learn about the simulators, and students from area middle schools got to play doctor. The school is one of the first in the nation to acquire human patient simulators for the classroom.
If rainy days seem all too familiar, you might be surprised to learn that Chapel Hill still isn't getting the rain it needs. Weather anchor Kelly Mahoney tells us what this could mean as we head into spring.
Muddy ground and murky streams don't exactly bring the word drought to mind, but despite the recent rains, Chapel Hill and much of the southeast are in a severe drought thanks to last fall's dry spell. Climatologist Ryan Boyles says that while rainfall helps, droughts are a long-term problem.
Short-term rainfall is great, and it's very useful for things like growing your flowers or keeping your grass green. But from a water supply standpoint, from a climatological standpoint, drought takes months to get into. It also takes months to get out of.
The drought has been felt especially hard in Chapel Hill. Despite recent rain, area reservoirs such as University Lake behind me still report levels that are lower than normal. While last month's rains are helping, defeating a drought of this magnitude will require more than just a few rainy days. A few rainy days may help, but in a state where agriculture brings in $46 billion annually, much of the damage has already been done. Tobacco, small grains, and soybeans took the hardest loss last fall, and North Carolina farmers are hoping spring rains will bring growing conditions back to normal, along with the state's economy. What will be necessary to bring us out of such a drought?
If we get near normal to above normal rainfall through the early spring, I think we'll be in much better shape. The reservoirs will be full. Stream flows will be back up. Those are the critical factors we're really watching right now.
Experts say long-term forecasts are too unreliable to predict when the drought will end, but with the spring growing season right around the corner, the need for rain is stronger than ever. In Chapel Hill, I'm Kelly Mahoney, Carolina Week.
The state climate office warns that without sufficient rain, Chapel Hill could be facing water restrictions by early summer.
Well, I don't know about that rain, but it's been awfully breezy outside.
Yeah, it has been a little windy. What's going on?
I know. Well, this week we've had really a normal week. In the past few weeks we've seen normal highs. You know, one day I'll be in the mid-70s, the next day in the mid-30s. But this week we've really had normal conditions and a lot of sunshine. And the question is, when are we going to have the rain? But first, let's go to our this week's weather question, which is, what city holds the coldest record temperature? Is it McGrath, Alaska, Mount Washington, New Hampshire, Stockton, California, or Williston, North Dakota? I'll be back with the answer to the weather question and the weekend forecast just after the break.
Women's Center, may I help you?
The Women's Center is a nonprofit agency that has served as a meeting place for women in the Triangle since 1979, making it one of the oldest freestanding women's centers in the country. The mission of the Women's Center is to provide a supportive community where all women can inspire each other to grow, both personally and professionally.
I was going through a crisis at home, and I contacted Helpline, and they referred me directly to the Women's Center.
I think the Women's Center is really important for the community because it offers so many different kinds of resources, and if we don't have the resource here, we can find an avenue or a way for women to find the answers that they need.
It is inspiring. It's so exciting to be a part of something that really matters and really changes things.
You can support the Women's Center through membership or by sending a contribution to the Women's Center, 210 Henderson Street, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27514.
Hi, and welcome back to Carolina Week. The beautiful sunshine this week has put everyone in a great mood, and it's made it perfect to take a walk outside, enjoy the flowers just like we see in this video right here, or to go out and have a picnic, or to just enjoy whatever you want to do outdoors. It's been really dry this week, and the question is, are we going to have those dry conditions stay with us throughout the weekend? Right now, normally we see a high of 56 for February, and we've really had those normals. We have a low of 31 usually for February and a precipitation of 3.7 inches, but we're a little below that right now. If we look at our satellite map, we can see we have some cloud cover around the south, or to the south of us around Florida, and they're having some rain there, but the rain will not affect us. We'll still have the dry conditions over the Great Plains. Right now we have dry conditions, and that's what's going to be pushing our way. And if we look at our surface map, we can see a cold front did come through, and that's left us with normal conditions. And we have a little rain down here, but our high pressure is going to come over our area, and that's going to just keep everything really dry. So we're really going to just see maybe rain more next week. And this weekend, we're going to really have dry conditions. If we look at our 4-day forecast, on Friday through Monday, we're really going to have highs normal, which are going to be in the mid-50s, and a low around 30. And if you're going to be going down to the beach, we'll have a little warmer conditions, 60 on Saturday, 62 on Sunday, mostly sunny conditions. So it'll be really nice down there, and lows around 30s or upper 30s. And if you're going to be heading up to the mountains, it is going to be slightly cooler, 50 as a high on Saturday and 54 on Sunday. Lows will be around 30, and we'll have partly cloudy conditions over there. And if you're going to be heading up to the mountains to go skiing, Appalachian has 9 trails open, Cataloochee has 5, Ski Beach has 13, and Sugar has 18, which I'm going to be heading up to Sugar Mountain this weekend, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Maybe I'll see a little bit of snow. I don't know, in the northern mountains. We'll see about that. But does anyone have answer to our weather question?
Just looking at these choices, I would think Alaska is the obvious guess.
That is correct, McGrath, Alaska. They had a record of like negative 75 degrees Fahrenheit, so very cold there.
You gave us an easy one this week. Thanks, Jason. Move over to sports now. And Ben, it's the same darn thing every week. How bad can the basketball team get?
I mean, I know I am tired of seeing them struggle.
Well, it is tough, but there is a glimmer of hope from the last 2 games. But first, as we go to break, there are some important games this weekend for the Heels. The ACC Indoor Track Championships are here in Chapel Hill, the first time in the new building. And the baseball team opens up its season against Seton Hall with a 3-game set during the weekend. Carolina Week Sports returns after this.
Escucha Smokey antes de tratar.
Solo tú.
No juegues con fósforos, no juegues con fuego. Fuego. No hay nada pero tu pobre conejo asustado o un pobre ratón sin casa en que vivir. Si un hermoso bosque es lo que deseas, no juegues con fósforos, no juegues con fuego.
Solo tú puedes prevenir los fuegos forestales.
¡Fuego!
Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, King of the Apes, Father of Boy. He knows what it takes to be a dad. You go for a ride, you take a swim, you hang out. All it takes is time. Hey, it doesn't take a hero, but it takes a man to be a dad.
Welcome back to Carolina Week. The men's basketball team keeps finding new ways to make losing all the more excruciating. Trailing by 16 against Virginia in the second half on Tuesday, the Heels came all the way back to take a late lead. But the Cavaliers would pull away with a 73-63 victory. With the loss, Carolina sets an all-time record for futility, as no men's team has ever lost 16 games in a season before. One recent bright spot has been the play of Jawad Williams, who came to Carolina as the most heralded of the 3 freshman basketball recruits. And up until Sunday night, he had shown flashes of brilliance, but lots of inconsistency. But Sunday against the 3rd-ranked Maryland Terrapins, Williams finally broke out, breaking down their D. Jawad poured in a career-high 21 points and 11 rebounds, while dishing out 5 assists for good measure. His teammates know that this performance isn't a mirage, but a sign of the type of player Jawad is becoming.
We understand the type of player he is, and it's fun to see him get into a comfort zone where he feels comfortable to do the things that he can do, and that definitely showed tonight.
Jawad's just becoming a very dangerous all-around player. I believe he took another step to becoming a great player now. Everyone knew he was already a very athletic and very good player, but he just took it up another level, and he's going to get more recognition now. He's very dangerous.
With their soccer careers finished here at UNC, 4 Carolina seniors have been selected to go pro. From the national championship men's team, December graduate Danny Jackson was selected in the 2nd round as the 16th overall pick by Colorado. Joining him in Major League Soccer will be fellow defender Chris Leach, who was drafted 47th by Columbus. From the ACC Championship women's team, midfielder Jenna Klugel was selected 3rd overall by Boston. Also in the Women's United Soccer League, defender Danielle Borgman went 8th to San Jose. And Klugel knows it's an opportunity to be thankful for.
It's definitely a dream come true, because 3 years ago, this league wasn't even a reality. It wasn't even a thought in my mind. Instead of being able to play professionally with the best players in the world is the best possible thing.
Though Carolina's men's basketball team may not be performing well on the court, the sidelines are more entertaining than ever. Unknown to many spectators, cheerleaders don't just stand on the sidelines. They compete in their own tournaments and have one of the highest GPAs on campus. Carolina Week's Nicole Denman has the story.
Carolina is down by 20 with a minute to go. There's one group of Tar Heels who won't leave the arena. It's the cheerleaders. They keep the crowd involved even when there isn't anything on the court to cheer about.
Now I think a lot more people are paying attention to us, because there's not as much hype, but that's one of the things we do. We try to provide new things that get them excited, and make them look down there. It's more fun and it's a lot less stressful when you're out on the court, because you're out here in front of your friends and stuff, and with nationals and things like that, I mean, you've worked for like 6 months straight and you have one opportunity to go out there and do it.
The cheering doesn't stop with the buzzer for these Tar Heels. They keep training hard for success in their own competitions.
For nationals, it's a lot of extra training and a lot of extra confidence in each other.
These athletes don't receive scholarships, which makes it hard to compete against squads filled with athletes who do get money, some of whom go to college simply to cheer. Although scholarships may bring more talent, Captain Kurt Brossman believes the lack of money makes the team more competitive.
It makes you want it even more, though, when you're here, because you have to love doing it. You're not here because they're giving you money to go to school to do it. You're just here to do it because you love doing it.
The athletes and coaches work hard to maintain a balance between athletics and academics.
When they first start cheering, we teach them how to manage both the schedules, athletic schedules and academic schedules.
Even with the stress of cheering for football, basketball, and their own competitions, these student athletes are determined to stick with the sport they love.
When you love the Heels, you love them win or lose.
In Chapel Hill, I'm Nicole Denman, Carolina Week.
Well, on another note, in football, defensive coordinator John Tenuta has decided to leave Chapel Hill, and he's going to take the same position at Georgia Tech next season.
It's too bad. Oh well. Thanks, Ben. Well, it's time for the little baby with the big heart to start working his magic in Chapel Hill.
Chocolates, flowers, and greeting cards abound, but is love in the air for Carolina students? Find out when Carolina Week returns.
I'm sick of dealing with you. I'm sick of
I work 6 days a week.
Who do you think you
Stand
are?
up straight.
Don't you ever talk back to me again! You just shut up!
What are you crying about?
What a child learns about violence, a child learns for life. Teach carefully. We can show you how. Act against violence. Call 877-ACT-WISE for a free brochure.
If you have a story idea, contact Carolina Week at 843-8292. You can also visit us online at carolinaweek.org. If you have questions about this program, write Carolina Week at Campus Box 3365, UNC-CH, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27599.
Well, the big day is February 14th, and Valentine's Day preparations are in full swing.
Here on the Carolina campus, I went around to find out if Cupid, I mean Carolina, is cranky, and if students think V-Day is just a whole lot of hype.
I love you.
I won't go all out. I refuse.
By the look of things, this guy will be the only one not going all out. But is V-Day really worth all the hype?
It's nice when you're in a relationship to get flowers and chocolates, but there's also the other side of, I mean, does it really have to be this one commercialized day?
I think Valentine's Day is a great holiday just because it expresses love. I think love is everything.
In my opinion, it is a complete sham. It is nothing but a holiday designed by Hallmark for women to get a whole bunch of gifts.
But what if you aren't a part of a couple and you don't have a date?
I think Valentine's Day is more about just talking, just hanging out with like people you actually care about rather than boyfriend and girlfriend. I mean, if you have someone who's really important to you, that's great, but if you don't, then just spend time with like close friends.
So what are some Tar Heels doing for the big day?
But I'm also spending it having ice cream and watching When Harry Met Sally with all of my good friends.
I was hanging out with my girls, and I still think I am, but I got asked on a date. So we'll see.
Well, V-Day just might be worth a different kind of hype.
It's not worth the hype if it's only about romance, but I think it is a day to kind of step back and appreciate your family and friends as well.
So, Brigida, do you have a Valentine this year?
Sadly enough, Tim, I don't. What about you?
I don't. Would you be mine?
Well, of course I'll be your Valentine, Tim.
Thank you, Brigida.
It's so sweet of you.
Perhaps that's an appropriate time to end this edition of Carolina Week.
Thank you for joining us, and be sure to watch again next week.
Until then, have a good night and a good week.